State Community College, please raise your hand. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 7A3, associate degree in applied science in nursing at Trentham State Community College. Once again, this was on our work session last month. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Van Troy. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the nursing degree program at Trentham State Community College, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item 7A, 4, 5, and 6 are item 4 is a certificate in cosmetology program at Ingram State Technical College. Item 5 is a certificate in logistics and supply chain technology at Ingram State Technical College. 7A6 is a certificate in carpentry at Ingram State Technical College. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve all three of those proposed items, 7A, 4, 5, and 6. Then a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Ms. Foy. Any discussion? Once again, these were on our work session last month. Great new programs there at Ingram State. There being no discussions or comments, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving items 7A, 4, 5, and 6 at Ingram State Technical College, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item 7A7, Associates in Applied Science and Physical Therapy Assistance Program at Southern Union State Community College. Once again, this was on our work session last month. Is there a motion? Motion by Ms. Foy. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the Physical Therapy Assistance Program at Southern Union, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item 7A8 is an authorizing resolution for Gadsden State Community College. And this was in conjunction with the financing, $25 million there. This was on our work session last month. Is there a motion to approve this authorizing resolution? Motion by Mr. Smith. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Brown. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of authorizing the resolution for Gadsden State Community College, raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item 7A9 is the 2018 legislative agenda for the Alabama Community College System. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve this 2018 legislative agenda. Motion by Mr. Smith. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McInally. Any discussion? Any questions for the Chancellor? Or the Chancellor staff? Chancellor, we appreciate the work you're putting in this.
I would say that, just as an additional matter of information on me. In fact, I've got a meeting with the governor's office this afternoon. We're constantly negotiating and working on public school college authority condition. So as that begins to take more definite shape, I'll certainly touch it.
Any further discussion? There being none, got to have a motion and a second and discussion. All those in favor of approving the 2018 legislative agenda, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? The agenda is approved. Item 7A10 is a budget 2018-19 budget request for the Alabama Community College System. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Smith. Discussion. Questions? There being none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of approving this recommended 2018-2019 budget request for the Alabama Community College System, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We'll move to Section 8, Executive, Legal, and Public Information Items. 8A1. This is a recommendation regarding adoption of proposed policy 608.03, instructor overload for the system. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Smith. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Brown. Discussion. Anything, Mr. Pantroy from the policy committee? This is all okay, approved, and run through the policy committee. That being said, no further discussion. We'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving this recommended proposed policy of 608.03 about concerning instructor overload, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item 8A2, Marion Military Institute, the appointment of the Board of Trustees, and 2 appointments to the Board of Trustees and Advisors. This was on it's been on our work session. The board's had a chance to look this over. At this time, I will entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion or comments? There being none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of these recommended appointments to the Board of Trustees and Advisors of Marion Military Institute, please raise your hand. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8A3 is the naming Center for Leadership and Career Development at Marion Military Institute. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Smith. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Davis. I think the board felt like there's no need to discuss this, otherwise we can put it into executive session if there's any objection to that. Seeing none, we'll move to the question. All those in favor of approving the naming of the Center for Leadership and Career Development at Marion Military Institute, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8A4. This is approval of the 2018 board meetings and work session schedule for the Board of Trustees. This was on our work session last month. I think we got a chance for plenty of input and discussion. Is there a motion to approve this schedule for 2018? Motion by Ms. Brown. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Davis. Discussion. I will make this comment on this. We have tentatively approved the meeting times of each month for 10 a.m. for the board meeting and 10:45 for work session. As the agendas dictate, that could be changed, and we will certainly give more than appropriate notice for any change in the schedules, depending on what the workload is for the Board of Trustees and for the staff. Seeing no discussion, we move to vote. All those in favor of approving this 2018 schedule for the Board of Trustees, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion's approved. Item 8A5, cyber liability insurance. This was on our work session agenda last month. Premiums has not changed from the previous year, but has become somewhat retroactive and includes prior to the events that may be based prior to the policy taking effect. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. McAnally. Any discussion? Mr. Ryan, thanks for your work on this. We Appreciate it. There being no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the cyber liability insurance, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item 8A6 is amendment to the lease agreement between the City of Arab and Snead State Community College. This was on our work session last month. Is there a motion to approve this? Motion by Ms. Foy, is there a second? Second by Mr. Van Troy. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving this amendment to the lease agreement between the City of Arab and Snead State Community College, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. That concludes our action items. Section 9, personnel, Chancellor.
We have one new employee that I'd like to introduce, I think. Mitra. She is with private student license operation here in the building, so we're glad to have her on board.
Welcome. Item 10, Chancellor's report.
If I could, I'd like, Susan, would you do the honors at this point, introduce the special guests and kind of comments about what we're doing?
Absolutely, thank you. Good morning. Morning. So you all, excuse me, are aware that starting late winter in 2017, we began a comprehensive review of correctional education. And in the months after, I provided you a report of our work with corrections. And something that came out of that work with corrections, which was unexpected and quite a pleasure, is that we began to reach out to other stakeholder groups involved in either correctional education or post-correctional education. We reached out to the Sheriff's Association. We've made great inroads with them. That's something that we'd like to report on in a couple of months to you, but I think you'll be excited by that. We've reached out to the District Attorneys Association, a little bit more difficult group to work with, but we continue to work with them. And then we've reached out to the Judges Association, and that has been a very interesting dialogue. And I'd like to report more progress than we've made, but I'm sure that we will make inroads in the upcoming months. But what I'd like to talk to you about today is a relationship that has just grown over the last several months that we did not expect. And it's a wonderful opportunity for former felons in the state of Alabama. When I attended a meeting regarding correctional education and the Department of Corrections several months ago, I was approached at the end of the meeting by Darrell Morgan, who is Assistant Director over at the Board of Pardons and Paroles. And he said, you know what, we would like to work with you. We've got some initiatives here at the Board of Pardons and Paroles, and we think there's a great opportunity for you to provide educational services to folks who have been released. That began a series of discussions, and we learned there was, in fact, great opportunity for our colleges to offer adult education and GED preparatory services to individuals who have been released on parole, as well as the possibility of career and technical education. So those discussions culminated in an agreement, a memorandum of understanding that we entered into with the Board of Pardons and Paroles in October. And it really commits us, our system, and our colleges and the Board, Pardons and Paroles, to work together to try to provide great educational services to those who have been released on parole. Specifically, we committed to working with them on the day reporting centers, which is a new initiative. At this time, there are 3 day reporting centers in operation in Alabama, one in Jefferson County, one in Mobile, and then one that just opened here in Montgomery. We are providing adult education services, and in Montgomery in particular, we plan to pilot the MSSC CTE program. So that's really, really, really exciting. The thing about the day reporting centers, though, is they are for sort of these high-risk parolees, those who don't have a high school diploma or a GED, and they are without job. So that's great. We want to provide services to them, but at any given moment, there are more than 30,000 people in the state of Alabama who have been released on parole or that are on probation. And the majority of them either do not have a high school diploma or a GED, or they don't have the skills to gain employment. So there is a much larger population out there beyond the day reporting centers. We agreed in this memorandum of understanding to have a good working relationship with local parole offices and our colleges to offer services there as well. So it's just a great partnership that we've entered into, that we're excited about, that we know will continue to grow. The other piece that we talked about, and I think Mr. Cook will probably mention, is that we met with the commissioners at the Board of Pardons and Parole, and they are very interested in entering new language as part of their deliberations about early release. And that new language speaks to whether or not someone has actually taken advantage of educational services while in prison and or learned a skill. So exciting news. And what I'd like to do right now is introduce Mr. Cook, who is the Executive Director of the Board of Pardons and Paroles. He's here with us today, and I think he has brought a couple of members of his senior staff and has a few comments. Mr. Cook?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chancellor, committee members, it would be remiss of me if I didn't say I was excited, grateful, and thankful for this opportunity. As I don't want to preach to the choir, but you all know the value of an education. Many of our clientele, they go into the system because they don't have an education. Statistics support that. Unfortunately, a lot of them that spend 10 to 15 years into the system, they still don't get those necessary tools that they need to better themselves when they come out. And then we have them again. So to have this partnership, I am just excited about this opportunity to have the college level to come on and help us to help the individuals so they can stay out. My staff is excited. I didn't think we'd find anybody who's more excited than I am, but when I talk to Dr. Price and Ms. LaShonda Hale, I find people that are equally excited as we are. So that just lets me know that this partnership is going to be great for everyone in the state of Alabama. Whether we realize it or not, we are our brother's keepers. And Ms. Price said 30-some thousand. There are actually about 56,000 people that we supervise yearly. A lot of them are our neighbors, we just don't know. A lot of them we see at church and Walmart. So it's imperative that we supply them with what they need to succeed in life. So I'll be short, but I'm just grateful for this opportunity, and I look forward to us working together. We are committed 100%. If we didn't have the MOU, we would still do that. And I want to identify two of my staff members here that I brought along to show support. It's easy for me to get up here and talk about the stats, but those two individuals there are where the rubber meets the road. Daryl, would you stand up? Daryl Morgan is the Assistant Executive Director. Daryl has a passion for this. He started our Life Tech Thomasville Center in Thomasville, Alabama, where we currently have Coastal Community College on board, and we see from that there is a success rate with getting education and training. And Rebecca Bensema is one of our division managers. She's probably more where the rubber meets the road than Daryl and I. She's hands-on and knows Miss Hale and has worked with Miss Price. So we're just excited. So just be assured that the Board of Pardons and Parole is excited. We welcome this opportunity, and we see the need that it's going to bring to this great state. Thank you.
Chancellor, if you don't mind, there's one other matter that I'd like to report.
Well, let me ask,
Oh, sure.
Dr. Colligross, you come around also? I'd ask Susan to make this announcement, but I also want to recognize Glenda. Glenda has, in the last several weeks, stepped up, and she, as you well know, is providing some real strong leadership in an environment where we desperately needed that strong leadership, and we appreciate that. But more than that, she has been a representative for the board and for the system with ACCS. And so I've asked, we just attended the annual meeting, and I asked Susan if she would kind of drop a hint about what's going on.
I'll just drop a hint. Okay. So as you all know, that after review of the substantive change prospectus that was submitted in 2016 regarding governance, the SACCS Executive, Board of Trustees met in December of 2016 and required, as a result, us to submit a first monitoring report on governance. You all did lots of work over the last several months, including coming up with a new policy, and there was lots of work at the department level with the committee working on that report, and that committee was headed by our legal counsel, Roger Bates, as well as Dr. Colagros. The report was submitted early. It was not due until September of 2017, but it was submitted early, and that's due to the hard work by the board as well as the committee. And what I am very happy to report to you today is that at the December meeting in Dallas, the ACCS Change of Governance First Monitoring Report was reviewed, and all colleges in the ACCS were removed from monitoring with no additional report required. Now that is the word that we heard, the report that we heard. The actual letters will not go out probably until mid-January, but that is fantastic news for our colleges and certainly for our board.
Can you talk to us a little bit about self-evaluation?
I can, but I've thought a lot about that. There's one new standard, or there's actually two new standards. SACCS in its December meeting also voted on a set of new standards. They basically were the old standards. Those of us that attended, all the presidents know that. They're just renumbered, and some of them have been added on. They look like add-ons, and they've been incorporated into the standards, so they're really less in number than there were. But there are two new standards, and one of them is a self-evaluation by the board. Now, I think, based on what Susan just presented, I feel like you have self-evaluated yourself over the last 2 years during that process, and more than most boards. So we can certainly, there's 3 colleges going through SACCS. One of them is Northwest Shoals, so I have that. That's another little task right now for this next year. So you're supposed to self-evaluate yourself, and that's one of the new standards, that boards self-evaluate themselves because everybody else is being evaluated but the board. But in the state of our community college system, I think you have self-evaluated yourself, so we can write our standard to that. But if in January or February in your meetings, those of us that have reports due in March, if you just spend some time, and we can come up with some questions, but they suggested questions just around the standards that we've been looking at that SACCS requires. But if you could just spend some time with some kind of little questionnaire that I'm sure Roger Bates, myself, Susan Price, any of us, Dr. Rothmer, that have worked on those reports already, can come up with a little questionnaire for you to answer, that would be great. And it can be very informal for you all, because we can certainly put in a lot of documentation that you've evaluated yourself. You've changed policies and so forth over the last couple of years. So I feel like you have self-evaluated yourself, but if you could just complete a little questionnaire so we could add that to our compliance documents, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. And we will be working on that, so we will be here in communication. I just didn't want you to think I was a thing.
Thank you again, Dr. Colagros, for your contributions to that in relationship with SACCS, and Susan, thank you for guiding this through as well. Once again, we have these gorgeous poinsettias that come from the horticulture department at Wallace State Hansville. Dr. Carlix, thank you so much for those, and they're just gorgeous here in this beautiful conference room, and we appreciate that very much. I think maybe Susan wanted us to get maybe a picture maybe after this meeting or before they get scattered or whatever, so board members kind of hang close when they can do that. We'll take about from the time we adjourn, we won't be able to start the work session until 10:45, so everybody please keep your eye on your watches or whatever. Item 11, the we'll reconvene once again at 10:45 for the work session today. Our next regular board meeting will be January 10th at 10 a.m. in this building. Anything else for the board? Any other comments? Appreciate everybody's contribution to this agenda and all the work that's been done. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Davis, or second. Second by Mr. McAnally. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.